Hello everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I haven't been doing as many YouTube videos since I've been doing a lot of Reels and TikToks, since that's kind of hot right now with the algorithm, but I do think it's important to upload a YouTube video for myself once every week or maybe twice a week. And today I have a very unique topic that I've never touched on before myself, at least not in a direct video, and that is exam stress and anxiety, conditional acceptance we hold on ourselves and lives. And if you see me looking down right here, it's because I have a little bit of a bullet points I want to touch over, because this topic I can kind of take it in many different ways. So before I go any further, please subscribe, comment down below. Most of you know who comment regularly on my videos. I go through, answer everything, have conversations. I'm always down to have a conversation about anything, whether we disagree or not agree, and stuff like that. I think it's important to have that open dialogue, since OCD can be really confusing and stuff like that. Now, it is important to highlight that I went to grad school, so I have a doctorate degree. And during grad school, whatever you're getting, it doesn't matter what the degree is in, especially at the graduate level, there are a lot of societal and cultural dogmas based around what considers someone a good person. So if we go over to someplace like India, someplace like the Middle East, someplace like China and Japan, where medical doctors are specifically looked at as the pinnacle of success. One of my new favorite comedians was joking about becoming a doctor, and he said, my parents didn't care about, he said, helping people was on the bottom of the list of me becoming a doctor. The top of the list was about the fame and the fortune and the prestige, basically joking about conditional acceptance without him even knowing it. So during my grad school experience, before chronic OCD latched, I was so impatient, would rush through my tests to look like I was the smartest person. I've done video, TikToks and Reels about all my notes in the basement. I could stack three rows all the way up to the ceiling with all my books from school. I was very obsessive about knowing everything, and it really was based off of my belief that I couldn't make any mistakes. Now, there's a lot of people out there that talk about how the company themselves should be much more open about you never making mistakes. And this is a great topic. Cultural environments in the workplace are great, but we have to remember that not everyone needs to respect us, and that's not going to be the case. That's not life. We can't always have it our way. So it is important to realize that if you might work for a company and you might have a job where, after school, where these type of principles follow over into your career, maybe corporate America, for an example, because I live in America, and stuff like this. And there's a lot of people talking about the cultural changes that need to happen in the workforce, but it's also important to realize that you can't control any of that. So for the most part. So the first topic I want to talk about is unconditional self and unconditional life acceptance. This irrational belief system based around grad school isn't going away overnight. It more than likely isn't going to change, since people are highly conditional when it comes to grad school. I remember I was out one time at the bar and there was a medical doctor there with his scrubs and it said MD. And I was speaking to him and I could tell right away, I'm like, why is this guy at the bar with his scrubs on? Because he wanted everyone to know that he was a medical doctor. He obviously had very, very poor conditional acceptance. I'll never forget that. Nothing about his character except for that he had terrible conditional acceptance. You could tell right away. So unconditional life acceptance, that this is how the world works right now, and it probably isn't going to change anytime soon. Doesn't mean you can't talk about it and try to instill change, but if you're going at it with the mechanism of trying to prove people wrong and why they must respect you and must respect your mistakes, you're probably not going to get very far. That's not the way the world works. This is a lot different than how the majority of the gurus and self-help talk people are telling you about, that you need respect, that you need to be okay to make mistakes. I agree with all that. But the reality of that happening, especially in companies with thousands of people, is not real. It's important to talk about that. And schooling is the same way. You're not going to go to a grad school program that takes in 8,000 people a year and think yourself you're going to change the entire system and getting everyone to demand respect. It's just not a reality. You have to realize that a lot of people there, if not everyone there, are going to live their lives completely based off conditional acceptance. The other thing too is, if you fail exams and stuff like that, a lot of people with the families and the cultures, oh, what happens if my parents never talk to me again and stuff like that. Yes, it's important to realize that that would be frustrating, but you could still accept yourself unconditionally even when you fail exams. People change careers all the time. So that's really important to open up this talk about unconditional self and unconditional life acceptance. The second thing I want to talk about in touching back into the cultures is that it's not the end of the world if you were to say fail out of school. People fail out of school all the time. Many of the top entrepreneurs, men and women, either failed out of school, never went to school, dropped out of school, restarted school multiple times. Steve Jobs was one of them. I'm just using the big names for this one. I'm sure there's other people that don't have the famous esteem behind them, such as Jobs or Zuckerberg and Elon and all these other people. I have a member of my family that was like that, dropped out of school, became very successful from a monetary perspective. So it's just not as simple as it feels like it might be the end of the world, but the only reason it feels like it's the end of the world because you have a couple beliefs. I can't stand if I fail. I can't stand what society would think about me if they knew I fail. I can't stand what my cultural group I'm around, wherever I'm living. And this will be different from place to place. Again, if you fail out of school being a medical doctor in a family from India, where there's a lot of medical doctors in the family, this might be a little bit more difficult, but you can do it. We don't need our parents' respect. We can, when we get older, it's hard to talk to a 7 and 8 year old about this because they're so conditioned about, who they're around, and they don't have the context of life to use their thinking, to look at their thinking. That makes humans really significant and unique instead of just acting completely off of, what's the word I'm looking for? Off of just urges and instincts, which we still do a lot. Different talk. We'll go into the free will. That one really triggers a lot of the existential stuff. There's probably a lot less free will than we think. So it is important to cover that because it's not the end of the world whether you fail out. It's also important to look at people who have failed out and realize that you can always restart again. There was a woman in my grad school who was back in school getting her doctorate, and she was like 50, and had this 20-year career before that. So that's important. The third thing I want to talk about is life goes on, and this ties right back into unconditional life acceptance. So it's important to realize that even if you failed out today, the reason why it feels so real also because the people you're surrounded by, if you're surrounded by your peers, maybe you're in an MBA, a Master's of Business program, and maybe you're going to a Fortune 500 company and you have a job lined up and then you fail and everyone thinks you're a loser. This is because you have conditional self-acceptance. It doesn't mean it won't be frustrating and could be sad in ways, and a little bit of guilt and shame might pop its head, but there's no chronicity of chronic depression, anxiety, shame, and guilt. Chronic shame, depression, anxiety, guilt, all those are perpetuated off belief systems. If there is an unconditional life belief system, unconditional life, there's no depression. There's none. It's really not actually possible. This is broken down in psychology research such as REBT and cognitive behavioral therapy. And Alice was studying this for 70 years. So it's important to highlight that. A lot of people think things are completely out of their control when it comes to their emotional destiny, such as school and anxiety. We're not talking about the jitteriness of just excitement and just the stress, but that chronic feeling of shame and guilt and unworthiness is coming from conditional self-acceptance, aka self-esteem. This is why we talk about self-esteem. So this is a good segue into the fourth point, talking about self-esteem with anxiety and stress. Self-esteem, as the book explains, The Myth of Self-Esteem on the Reading List, Chapter 4, Psychotherapy and Value of a Human, breaks down why we don't need self-esteem for other people to accept us. This is extremely important to cover because many people think they have to do a certain thing. I get like this sometimes with my own business and my own career. I'm like, ooh, I got to have everything planned out and stuff like that. And I'm not, again, as someone in my career, my field, I do think into the future, but sometimes I think so far into the future that I'm not present at all, which would be my own doing. Because I'm just not accepting of the possibilities. This tends to happen with people who maybe have more uncertainty in their jobs. And same thing with exam stress and anxiety. You could have everything studied on the test and you still don't know what's going to happen. I remember I took an advanced imaging test one time and I thought I knew everything and it was worded in different ways and I was totally freaking out and kind of having a panic attack. Like I said, I would always try to rush through because I wanted the look of being the smartest person in the room, but none of that actually matters. So what the most important thing to cover and how I want to wrap up this video is how do you move from self-esteem, aka conditional self-acceptance, aka to demanding respect, aka to conditional life acceptance, and move towards a place to where you can go to school, still have goals of wanting to and aspirations of wanting to pass your tests, and even if you want to be the best in the class, you have to realize that not everything is going to work out at times as if you want. If you attach your entire identity to school and the way you look, you crumble when things don't go your way. I saw this with people in my school, people that weren't in my direct class, but above and below me in grad school. We see it with athletes who attach themselves to their sports. You are not your sport, just like you're not your degree. You are just a person who's getting a degree that is one aspect of your life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Comment down below if maybe you didn't even go to college. Maybe it was exams and stress from a trade school. Maybe it's continuing educations and anything like this. We have a belief that if we don't do well, others will judge us, we'll look dumb, and then we won't go anywhere. If you failed the number one most important exam right now, 3 years down the road, no one's going to remember it. Now, that alone is not going to unlatch, especially if you have conditional self-acceptance. But this goes way beyond just the OCD and chronic anxiety belief system. This is a perpetuated system I see in the schooling system based off perfectionism. And perfectionism, Dr. Albert Ellis breaks this down in some of his readings, the difference between task perfection and self-perfection. There's a lot of things I wish I had task perfection on, and I work towards those task perfections. But if I don't have perfection on them, which I usually won't because I'm a fallible human, I don't crash emotionally because it's a task that is detached from my self-worth. I don't know if I like wording like that. No, that's true. It's detached from my being. So I'm more than just my exam. You have to look at it like this. It's really important to do this because of all those irrational beliefs based around school. So I hope you enjoyed this video again. Don't forget to comment down below. And as always, have a great day.